Really thrilled today to be welcoming our speaker. Over this year, actually, we've had quite a few members of sort of UK government and administration speaking about UK digital policy and their ambition and where they'd like to see us. But I think that what we're going to hear about today, in terms of scale of ambition, is so much more than anything we've had in the UK for quite a few years. Minister, Mr. Diego Molano Vega, from the Colombian ICT Ministry, going to speak a little bit about your Vive Digital. I think it's translated as Digital Living Plan, which sounds, again, far more ambitious than anything we've had recently. And we're going to have about 40-45 minutes, I think, for you to speak, some time for questions. But I guess the only thing I really wanted just to mention was that, you know, again, I think you're a sort of good role model as somebody who's actually worked as an electrical engineer. You have industry experience before coming to government. We talked over lunch about the difficulties of making ICT policy without understanding how ICTs work. So again, perhaps we can touch on that a bit later in the questions. But we're so delighted to have you here today. Thank you very much for visiting us. And
thank you, Vicky.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Mark, for the invite today. It is a pleasure being here. I just wanted to take advantage that I had to come to the ministerial meeting of ICANN that happened yesterday to enjoy a trip to Oxford and talk to you guys and discuss a little bit about ICT policies. And I'm very excited to be here because this is one of those kind of weird places in the world where you try to grow up ICT politicians, and that's the most weird kind of people in the world. ICT politicians. You can find on this campus a lot of economics politicians, health politicians, but it is really weird to find, not only here, but in the whole world, ICT politicians. So I'm going to show to you what we are doing in Colombia in terms of ICT policy. And it all started almost 4 years ago when President Santos asked me to be his minister and to deploy an ICT plan. He said, you have 90 days to have a plan. And the first thing I did was listing all the problems of Colombia in terms of ICT. I had a list of 60 different items. And I asked universities, I asked the industry, I asked people on the street answers for my 60 different problems. I didn't get even one answer. Because in this industry, nobody thinks on policy. The industry doesn't think on policy. I've been in the industry. I've been the head of regulatory and public affairs of AT&T in the US. Now AT&T, it was Belsal in those days. And also I was the head of regulatory and policy and public affairs of Telefónica in Spain. So I'm familiar with the industry. So, very, very few people think on this. So I had a lot of problems, I had no solutions. So let's use technology to find my answers. So we created a social network. More than 5,000 people joined this social network to discuss what to do. So we drafted a plan with the help of those 5,000 people. Actually, we're doing the same exercise now for the second term for the next 4 years. And the first, one of the questions we were debating on the net was what Colombia wanted to do. And many people said, we want to be the Silicon Valley of Latin America. Other people said, we want to be the innovation nation of the region. But then, with my boss, with President Santos, we drew the conclusion up that, no, we don't want to be the Silicon Valley of Latin America. We don't want to be the innovation nation. That's very clear. We just want to solve the single most important problem of Colombia, thanks to technology. And the single most important problem of Colombia is poverty. 4 years ago, more than 38% of Colombians, 38% were living under the poverty line. 38%. And the main goal of the whole government is reducing poverty. So that's why a few years ago, President Santos was here in Oxford, learning about poverty reduction. And we adopted a model created here in Oxford, taking a quite interesting approach to poverty, measuring poverty in a multidimensional way. We adopted that model, and that model has helped us to take out of poverty almost 3 million people in just 4 years. So the main goal we have with technology is reducing poverty. And you know that there is a very, very strong correlation between the reduction of poverty and internet penetration. Of course, the internet by itself doesn't reduce poverty if you don't do extra things, and I'm going to discuss what we're doing in Colombia later. But there is a very strong correlation between the reduction of poverty and internet penetration. So we have a role to play here as the ICT industry, which is increasing internet penetration. We also wanted to create jobs directly and indirectly in the economy. And in this stage, we've created a lot of jobs thanks to technology, especially technology in jobs in the ICT industry. And also we want to increase our productivity and competitiveness. This is the World Economic Forum comparison between the net worth index and the competitiveness of the country. And Colombia is just in the middle of it, you know, ahead of Peru or Brazil or Mexico, Brazil. Oh, you know, close to Brazil, so we want to push the growth of technology to increase our competitiveness as well. So we have 3 main goals: reducing poverty, creating jobs, and improving our competitiveness thanks to technology. 4 years ago, we took a picture we took many pictures, but this is just one of them. This is the population pyramid of Colombia. You know, in Colombia, it's kind of weird because every single home is marked with the social strata that homes belong to. It's kind of weird. But, and the value of housing depends on that as well, and also the price of utilities. This is, you know, it comes from many years ago, but so for us, you know, doing statistics and ranking everybody is very easy. So we rank them from 1 to 6. 1 the poorest, the 6 the richest. And this is the picture. The richest of the country, they didn't have any problem with broadband. 83% of their homes had broadband access, and more than 92% of their homes had a computer at home. When we took a view of the real Colombia, and the real Colombia is a huge base of a pyramid. 88% of Colombians are part of that base of the pyramid, which are level 1, 2, and 3. And let's take, for example, level 2. 39% of Colombians live in that level, social level. They make, in average, I would say, like $450 a month per family. A family that, in average, has 7 members. So this is around $65 a month per person. So a little bit more than $2 a month per person. So you know how it works. This is 39% of Colombians, and just 8% of those homes had internet access. So for us, this was very clear. We didn't care about the rich. We have to focus on the base of the pyramid. And then we asked those people, why you don't have internet? The answer was the obvious one. I don't have the money for it. I don't have a computer at home. But more than 20% of those people said, I don't need it. And that kind of, you know, stayed in the back of my mind. And then this is the other picture we had, which is related to small companies. In Colombia, we have more than 1.6 million companies. More than 96% of them are micro companies with less than 10 employees. And as you know, this is the real engine of any economy, the small companies. Just 7% of them were connected to internet. Just 7% of them. Which is today the average of Latin America. Very poor. We asked them, why you don't have internet? And I thought they were going to answer the same way. I don't have the money for that or whatever. No, the answer was very clear. more than 60% said, I don't need it. It is not necessary for my business. So we thought, oh, those guys have no clue what the internet is, how wonderful things you can do with the internet. No, they were right. Internet is useless, or was useless for them, as it is useless for the rest of the base of the pyramid of the world. Because today, internet is still a tool for the rich of the world, not for the poor, even if they have access. Why? Because there is no applications for that real world. Let's take, for example, the most common business in Colombia, which is the most common business in the whole world, I think, which is the little mom and pop shop. That doesn't exist anymore in these developed countries, but it exists massively in the developing world. The little mom and pop shop. I mean, I'm sure that if you've gone through India or even China or any place in Africa, you see those shops everywhere. In Colombia, we have more than 500,000 of those shops. So if you go and try to sell internet to them, they would say, why? Why should I be connected? So you can tell them, look, there is this application in the cloud where you can manage your inventory there. They would say, what for? I manage my inventory here in this little notebook, the same way my dad did and my grandpa did. It works. There's no value for them there. There's no additional value. You can tell them, look, you can have this application where you can manage your accounts here, your accounting here. They would say, what for? Yes, oh, you can do your tax refund better. They would say, I don't want to pay taxes. And actually, they don't pay taxes. No, so internet is useless because the main bottleneck to expand internet in the base of a pyramid of the world is applications. That's the main bottleneck. So we found out that to expand technology in Colombia, 4 years ago, we had four main barriers. The first one was applications. Killer applications for that base of a pyramid. The second barrier was that prices of computers and also services were quite high for the Colombian purchasing power. The third one is that the government didn't care about this, as it doesn't care, as now most countries do not care about it. So the investment of the government on ICT was very, very, very poor, as it is in Brazil, in Argentina, in Mexico, in the US, also here. They don't care compared to other issues. And the other bottleneck we had is our geography. Colombia is a beautiful country. We are blessed with a beautiful geography. Colombia is the size of France, Spain, and Portugal combined. It's a very large country with around 1,200 municipalities. But our geography is very, very complicated. So deploying networks, it is very, very costly and not profitable. For example, 2 years ago, we had just fiber networks just in 200 towns out of 1,200, just 200. Why? Because going to the number 300 was not profitable. I mean, nobody would go there to invest in fiber because there is no enough consumption to do it. So that was another bottleneck we had. So in order to overcome these barriers, we created this plan called Vive Digital, like Living Digital. And our main goal is to promote the massive use of the internet. We are not deploying internet or massifying internet. We're massifying the use of internet. That's a different focus. We have to focus on that. I mean, we don't care if we get to a town with internet. We care if people are using internet in the right way. So, in order to do this plan, we set 5 basic principles. The word principle is not there, but so we have 5 principles. The first one is very clear: the market as far as possible, the state or the government as far as needed. You have to have a very clear view of that. the government doesn't, or the government shouldn't do anything that the market can do by itself, and the government should help the market to grow where the market power cannot do it. The secondly is that we have to work at both ends of the equation, the supply and the demand side of digital services, but always thinking on critical masses. That's key here. We have to think big. So we have a policy at the ministry. Anyone that comes with a project has to impact thousands or hundreds of thousands of people, because, you know, in terms of ICT policy, people love to create anecdotes. You know, nice things to create perhaps an article, but no, we have to impact big. You know, we have to impact millions of people. Always thinking on critical masses, because that's a huge advantage of this industry. When we deploy fiber, for example, to a small town in the middle of a jungle, the cost of that fiber is very high, but it is the same one to connect just the mayor of the town or the whole town. The cost is exactly the same one. So if we connect more people, that cost is going to be split among more people, and of course the cost per person is going to be reduced. The same thing with software development. I mean, if you develop an application, the cost of developing this application for 100,000 users versus 1 million users is almost the same per user. So we have to take advantage of those critical masses. The third one is reducing tax and regulatory barriers. This is a heavy taxed industry with a lot of barriers. The fourth principle is that the government should help the industry with CapEx rather than OpEx. That's critical as well. That's very, very important. So the government should help, again, the industry and the private sector, helping them with capital investments rather than operation expenses. Because, you know, we saw that we didn't have a lot of money in those days. Now we do have a lot of money, but in those days we didn't have a lot of money, so we had to focus on helping them with CapEx. And the fifth principle, which is the most important one, is that the government should be the example of use of the big user of the internet. And in order to deploy, I mean, the base of this plan is what we call the digital ecosystem, and I think that word is commonly used everywhere, but it has different meanings. So for us, this is the meaning for us. The ecosystem has 4 elements. The first one is infrastructure. We needed to deploy infrastructure throughout the country: fiber, LTE networks, data centers, etc. The infrastructure is used by service providers to provide services. So a fiber that you have at home, Vicky, there is for sure a service provider that sells you internet access, television, telephony. In the future, I don't know what else you're going to get. And on top of the services, you have applications. So you have the fiber here, the service is internet, and the application is Facebook. And then you have users that use the applications. So let's take, for example, again, those mom and pop shops. Those mom and pop shops. Were they users? No. Why? Because they didn't have applications. So we created several programs, but this is one of the objectives we had, creating applications for those mom and pop shops. So we went to the Coca-Colas of the world and the Pepsis and the Procter & Gambles, and we told them, look, we are going to co-finance the applications for those guys who are your distributors throughout the country. Or, for example, cement companies as well. For example, we went to Cemex, the huge cement company, and told them, look, you have 25,000 of those mom and pop shops that sell your cement around the country, and those guys are your most important distribution channel. So I'm going to give you $1 million. You have to put another $1 million at least, and you develop, Cemex, not the government, develop the applications. They said, okay, so now more than 20,000 of those little shops have an internet connection, not subsidized, they bought them themselves. And they have these applications where they can order the cement online. But Cemex is very happy because now the whole inventory of their value chain is completely optimized. And now, and before, they had to send an armored car with guys with guns to collect the cash, going shop by shop. Now they get all the money electronically. So Cemex is very, very happy. So they are saving a lot of money, and then decided to share those savings with those mom and pop shops. So the mom and pop shop owner is very happy because he can order the cement almost 20% cheaper than before. So the guy is very happy. So this guy, even if the guy is old, he perhaps was afraid of using technology before. The value for him is so high that he finds his way to use internet. He finds the nephew, the son, the grandson that can help him to use internet. So that's the killer application. So what happened? There were no applications, now they have applications. If there are applications, we have users. Now those store owners are users. If they are users, they buy services. If they buy services, they use the infrastructure. But the infrastructure is a fixed cost. It is already there. The LTE networks are already there. So more people are using that infrastructure, so the costs are split among more people, so the price goes down. If the price goes down, more people can afford internet. If there are more people, application developers say, I have a huge market for me. That's why application developers are, booming in Colombia, because the market is growing. So there is more applications. There are going to be more users that are going to buy more services. They're going to use the infrastructure in the most effective way, in the more effective way. So prices go down. There are more users, so there are more incentives for application developers, and so on and so forth. This virtuous circle grows. So we have to tackle the issue from the two sides, from the supply side, which is the traditional point of view of ICT policy, increasing the supply of infrastructure and services. But we have to see it as well from the demand side. And that's the most important issue. People think that the bottlenecks of ICT are here, but not are here. The demand side. This is where the real issues are. So this is it, and we set some goals. The first one was going from 2.2 to 8.8 million broadband connections. People said that we were crazy setting that goal. We already achieved that. And the good news is that the growth is especially in the base of the pyramid. In terms of households, we went from just 17% of households connected, and these were the rich homes in Colombia. And we said we want to go from 17 to 50%. In December last year, we were already 44%. We don't have the last poll. The last poll is coming out in a few weeks, but I'm sure we already hit that goal. And in terms of small companies, we went from 7% in 2010, and the goal was 50%. We went from 7% to last year, in December, we already hit 60%, because we focus on applications for small companies. In terms of fiber, for example, in the country, we started with 200 towns connected. Now we got to almost 1,100. And the rest of the towns, even those in the middle of the jungle, we have already contracted a high-speed microwave network, because deploying fiber throughout the jungle is impossible. So we have a high-speed internet network to those towns in the middle of the jungle. This is the Amazon jungle. This is also the Pacific jungle, where the purple dots are. We get there with microwave. So Colombia is the first country in the region with high-speed broadband connections to every single town. There is no other country with such a good infrastructure. And we went from 5 submarine cables to 9 submarine cables in just 4 years. So internationally, Colombia is the best country connected in South America by far. We're lucky that we have 2 oceans, so we have redundancy there. In terms of infrastructure, we've done a lot of things. Let me skip this. Not only in terms of fiber, we're expanding fiber everywhere. We've covered the whole country with fiber now. But Colombia is very rural. And we said we wanted at least one internet community center in every single rural place with more than 100 inhabitants. And so we deployed 7,600 of those rural centers. So you go to Colombia, and even in the middle of the jungle, you find this little internet place. But the fact of having internet is not really the impact in their communities. It is the operator, the guy that works there. We pay a salary for him, a minimum salary, but he has become the leader of the community. And we train him permanently, on using technology. So he has to teach the community how to use internet, but he's also helping different government agencies in their programs and also the private sector. He's the e-government guy of the community. He's the e-commerce guys of the community. So farmers, come to him and say, look, I want to buy, perhaps a replacement part for their tools or whatever, and the guy is in charge of doing that. And he also, again, helps the community to be connected to internet. We also, in terms of infrastructure, are deploying LTE networks everywhere. Actually, it's been a quite interesting way to do telecom policy. LTE spectrum auctions are key, and we learn a lot from the UK. And last year we did a huge auction of a spectrum. But the interest of private companies is huge. And we went from 3 operators to 10 operators in the market. Some of them for sure are going to be out of the market because there is no space for so many players. But anyways, that's part of what happens in this kind of business. But we said, look with these licenses, operators are going to have the right to provide services to the rich, to the nice areas of Bogota or Medellin or Cartagena, which is fine. But they have also to connect those small towns in the middle of nowhere. So we use an expression in Colombia, it's like when you have breakfast and you have the toast and you have the jam and you have to spread the jam all over, kind of the same. So the jam gets to every single part of the toast. So that's the way we do it. Not only in the rich parts of the country, but also in the poor parts. So we cover the whole country with LTE networks. The second element of the ecosystems is services. So we found out that the main bottleneck for services was the price of computers. Computers were very high in Colombia. It was kind of a luxury product, or tablets, as they are in most countries. So we said we want to reduce the price. And the first goal we set was to have the cheapest computers in Latin America. We achieved that in the first year, eliminating all kind of taxes for computers, value-added taxes, duties, and closing a deal with the private sector, with the distributors. But then we said we want to even go cheaper than the US, and we got that. Now we are 9% cheaper than the US in average with computers. So we've tripled the number of computers in the country in just 3 years. Because people now can afford computers and tablets easier. And we also are deploying infrastructure in schools. We deliver more than 2 million tablets and computers in public schools in a quite interesting program that takes care of the 3 elements, which is the computers for the schools, the connectivity for the schools, but also the adoption strategy and the creation of content for those devices. The third element of the ecosystem is applications, which is, for me, the most important one. And this is where we apply that principle that the government should be the example. So we are #1 in the region in terms of e-government. We are #6 worldwide in e-participation and #10 worldwide in e-government services. And this is an effort not only of the Ministry of ICT, but every single ministry. So we've assigned responsibilities to every single minister on this. So you go, for example, to the housing ministry, they have a CIO, and they have an ICT plan for the housing area. So, for example, in this government, we are deploying 1 million homes, subsidized homes, or for free. And they all come with broadband and with a subsidy of $250 for the computer. You go, for example, to the labor ministry, and we work together on teleworking policies. And I was so pleased that in the last report of the labor minister, he started saying, we've created 30,000 new jobs thanks to teleworking and thanks to the policies they implemented together with the ICT ministry. So every single ministry is involved here, but not only the ministries, the regional governments as well. Colombia has 32 departments or provinces. Every single of them, now they have a CIO with their own ICT plan. Most municipalities have also a CIO, and we created the position of the national CIO, who is a vice minister or reports to me. And we're working very hard on improving the information systems of the government. Last week we launched the the IT architecture of the government, which Colombia is the first country in the region having a very clear IT architecture of the government. You guys in the UK are struggling with that. We're learning from you guys, from the mistakes you've done in the past, to leapfrog, in terms of IT for the government. That's key because having IT organized in the government, organizing the back office of the government is key to keep moving on the e-government side. We also have a program to strengthen the software industry. And the main bottleneck we have to strengthen the software industry is, let me check, let me jump here, is digital talent. There's a problem with the funds, but we just finished a gap analysis of talent in Colombia, and we need about 90,000 additional IT professionals in the next 5 years. So that's part of the problems we have. You guys have the same problem in Europe. I was having lunch yesterday with Nelly Cruz, the commissioner of the vice president of the European Commission, and she's in charge of the digital agenda of Europe. And she said, 90,000 does nothing. My problem in Europe is 1 million. So we all have the same problem. The US is also having that problem. Young people are not interested in studying these kind of careers. So we have a marketing plan to position these professions. So we have television shows showing that it is really nice to be an engineer, an IT engineer. So we have a show that we are creating where there's these IT guys, the typical nerds, driving a Porsche and with 10 girlfriends and stuff like that. You know, the typical telenovelas, you know, soap operas. And we have also all the engineers, the IT engineers, going high school per high school, showing those young kids that the good things about being an IT engineer, because this is a critical issue for the country, to have more people studying these kind of careers. And so we have also, in terms of applications, a huge program to encourage entrepreneurship. Now we have more than close to 70,000 young people developing applications in our program. And the good news about it is that they are developing applications for the Colombian market. Because the typical entrepreneur in the world wants to be a leader in the US market or in the global market. But we convince them that the opportunities are local, are for that base of the pyramid. So we're quite glad with the kind of applications that are coming out of that program. And the last element of the ecosystem is users. We train massively users. We have, for example, a program called the Digital Citizen. So more than 1 million people have become digital citizens. So we train teachers, we train public servants, we train police officers to become digital citizens. And also we have a program called Anti-Confuse. We played with words here, which means I trust ICT, to make people aware of the risks of internet and how to handle them. So we train massively people in the country on the risks of internet. So anyways, and also we have a quite interesting plan. I was actually mentioning this before during lunchtime. In Colombia, high school students, they have to provide with the social service before they finish high school. So we created this program called Revolucionarios. We play again with words. It means like net volutionaries, you know. And they go home by home. They knock at people's homes, and they ask, do you use internet? If the answer is yes, they show those people the risks of internet and how to use internet in a responsible way. If they don't use internet, they teach them the good things of internet. So we have 70,000 kids on the street teaching their communities how to use internet. This is a really good program. A couple of weeks ago, we got the prize at the WISES. As actually, I know, Margaret, you're working on this Internet for Development. This was the Internet for Development prize at the ITU. So in terms of users, we're doing a lot of things, a lot of programs for people with disabilities. So in Colombia, for example, any blind person can download the software that reads the screen for them for free. So now we have, I think, more than 100,000 people have downloaded that software. So they can browse easily. And we have quite interesting programs for people with, for example, blind people go to the movies in Colombia, or deaf people talk on the phone for free, those things. So this is what we've done so far, and we multiply this in every single of our departments or provinces. We multiply the effect of this plan everywhere. And we are doing this because we want to reduce poverty, create jobs, and improving our competitiveness. This is our focus, and this is what I wanted to talk to you about. And I don't know if perhaps we have some time to get some feedback or questions, comments.
Thank you very much.